And I think there's a conversation that needs to be had there as well, because it is having a huge impact on ourselves, particularly when, you know, children and young people are placed from out of their area. They're completely and utterly in an unknown space. It is entirely understandable why the first thing that they want to do is to try and find their way back to more familiar territory. So I do think there's another conversation to be had there.
Yeah, no, and I think, again, we need to think about what sort of event we might want to arrange on the back of the work that has been done in the last 12 months. But clearly, taking on board some of the national work that you're now involved with as well, Dan. So, yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah.
The Harold Lichfield report that's just come out, the second part of the children's homes is very supportive of the policing problems caused by some of the children's homes, and it's quite clear on that, so I think that adds the evidence base to that. Also, Celeste from your office has been putting together a report with the police and with partners to try and come up with some recommendations to put in front of yourselves, other leaders to discuss and consider. And I think that might be the way forward, and I'll take on board some of the things, the recommendations from here. I think need to be brought to senior leaders to decide as to how to approach this, to have those discussions with a number of other people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, you know, whilst it is welcome that the, say at the beginning of the report that the numbers have stabilised, nevertheless, it's still a very high number, around, you know, 9,500 occurrences, which is still a 14% increase. And added to what Dee's just said around the increase in homes, and whether that's private or local authority, but the question that follows on, I guess, is there a timeline for the crime prevention study into the repeat missing from force vulnerability crime reduction officer? Is that work in train?
It's ongoing. Yeah, it's again, it's a great innovative piece of work, and again, I share this nationally. Actually, all the folks that are represented there were very interested to see that nationally. So, Chris Joyce and myself are leading on that piece of work. It's going to SEC Hankinson this month to be signed off from an ethics point of view. February we will commence the interviews with the children. We will then do a mid-debrief in respect of that, and then conclude the full interviews by the 31st of March, and by April there will be a full report in respect of that for the Chief Executive and we start really in terms of what we've done with that. Yeah, we're very interested in that piece of work. There's nothing to be done around that. We do it for burglars, don't we, and such like. I think it's really quite creative.
Yeah, so, you know, I heard what you say about the role of the architectural liaison officers, but do they only get involved when there's an application for a new dwelling, or are they being asked to go back and re-inspect the homes that are already in place?
Yeah, I think there's opportunities for the children's homes. Again, when I raised this previously, there was some uncomfortable movement, shall I say, in terms of, because obviously we have no jurisdiction over the local authority children's homes. But what I was trying to promote really is that some of these locations might need some of that crime prevention to stop young people going missing and putting themselves at risk. So that office is there to local authorities, for activity liaison officers and crime prevention officers to go in to make sure that actually they are fit for purpose and safe for individuals, and we would do that in conjunction with the local authority if necessary. What else we've done with our architectural liaison officers is obviously if there's a change in use, we'll get notified of that. Also, Ofsted to information sharing agreement will notify us of new emerging homes. So what I'm wanting to do on the back of all of that is almost develop, I hate to use the word triage, but almost a discussion around what exactly this articulating chief is around. Actually, is that individual or that home suitable for that location, and have those discussions with the providers, you know, to what, because ultimately we want to make sure that the children are safe, and is it appropriate.
I just think that given everything that we know, that we've talked about today in this report, there is a case for going back to local authorities to inform them of some of these key stats, if you like, and make an offer around crime prevention stroke architectural liaison officers to go back and re-look potentially at some of these sites, because, you know, it's in all our interest surely for you know, if it is children, to be kept as safe as possible.
Well, and also, you know, if you're talking about holding another event, what are others doing to try and make sure that those kids and young people are engaged sufficiently to keep them safe inside those premises rather than them wanting to go out?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the crime prevention, the architectural agent is only one aspect of this, but nevertheless is a good way of getting back in to start to have some of these conversations for something that might not have been looked at for 2 or 3 years at least.
What we do around the data, obviously I'm conscious that I share that with the LSCB, so the local children's safeguarding board, and just share that data with them. So through their performance measures, should be having those discussions with the local safeguarding boards around the volumes of children that are going missing from local authority rights and actual private care. So they do get that data.
Yeah. But it's then, but it's the follow-up then, isn't it? Well, if they're in receipt of that data, what they're actually doing about it. So it's, you know, whatever role I need to play, you know, we need to look at that and take on board the key sort of highlights from this latest information.
I think Commissioner Stewart's letter or whatever you're talking might be the answer, because one solution may be to request the local authorities not to allow any more private, because it rather feels, and we'll look at the evidence base, but it rather feels that we've got more places available, way more places than we would ever need for West Yorkshire children, and therefore by default we're policing the missing of other local authorities, which is a good thing in the global scale of, you know, national policing. But actually, you know, Kirklees, by way of example, is disproportionately out of kilter with the amount of children's homes, and therefore, you know, it's something that there, rather than the homes themselves, is how many there are of them.
Yeah, no, and you know, I think being able to have, you know, those conversations with the data to hand is important, because, you know, if we're going to go in and make those types of requests, we've got to be sure of the data to allow planning committees or whoever to you know, to have a rationale for not allowing any further homes if that is what is being said.
And similarly, if we've got children's homes that don't have any problems and don't have any issues, why are they being successful? What's working?
Yeah, because I understand in Wakefield there's some good work going on at the moment around
yes, there is,
working with homes. Is that right?
Yeah, PCSOs that are dedicated to some children's homes. We've managed to do what is called the Erase project, but it's a localised project. That's something that we developed on the back of visiting Durham Constar Road. And that's actually just problems sort of actually speaking to the children, and so the PCSOs are known by the first names rather than actually ex-PCSOs and PCSO Hill, etc. They're known by the first names, and we are actually starting to see some green shoots in terms of reductions of children going missing from our most problematic homes within Liverpool. So again, that's it's positive is that now. Yeah.
So that might be something we can throw into the mix around PCSO sort of involvement around some of these locations. Yeah. Okay. Anything? Okay. Well, thanks very much for that report. Again, covered a lot of ground, but you know, it is a very topical one and really important in terms of vulnerability and some of the risks that we face. So, thanks for that update. And be glad to know we're now on to the last item, which is number 8, and this one again covers it's under the overall heading of safeguarding vulnerable people, but covers the issues of FGM, that's female genital mutilation, forced marriage and honour-based abuse. Again, all themes that are within the police and crime plan following consultation that we carried out last year. But again, I'll hand straight over to you to give an update on this.
And again, forming part of the vulnerability agenda, really. Honour-based violence, female genital mutilation, forced marriage are very much hidden crimes. And as a consequence, we've certainly been proactive in trying to raise awareness, engaging third sector to assist us with regards to particular engagement with minority communities where this particular element of criminality is prevalent. We've also embraced historically the National Police Chiefs Council's guidance around their action plans, delivery plans in terms of these crime types, and my understanding is that that's currently being revised, so we'll need to reinvigorate that going forward. We've been very much mindful of engaging within National Action Weeks, awareness raising weeks, which have been progressed by the police service and also partners, and we've developed certainly partnership arrangements across the piece, both with criminal justice partners but also community safety partnerships with a view to raising the awareness and trying to tackle this element of criminality. But very much hinges on the partnership relationships, particularly around health, with these types of crimes being brought to the attention of the police. So, you know, certainly a way to go, but we are making headway in terms of trying to develop our awareness around these crime types, but also looking at working with partners with view to trying to tackle these elements as well. So, Darren, just in terms of some of the operational elements, in terms of what we've progressed so far, if you can just remind us with those, that would be appreciated.
We've obviously, as Foster alluded to there, the National Action Plan obviously what we do our again, we've been very proactive in terms of getting onto the various meetings, also national. I think we've actually almost forced the reinvigoration of the new NPCC meeting, because we've been quite persistent in terms of saying we're not meeting for such a while, we need to get in the meeting. So again, regionally we've put pressure on national influence there. So delighted with that. We continue to do audits around some of these very sensitive issues, conscious of the fact that, as Mr Foster again spoke about, is hidden crimes, getting individuals to come forward. Obviously, we're very reliant upon partner agencies, certainly in respect of FGM, coming forward so we can actually take positive action in respect of offenders and victim care. We've been very proactive again around the 12 days of action. We worked collaboratively with Carmen Nirvana. We devised an action plan of what we would do during those 12 days of action, so much so Carmen Nirvana were very supportive and said that our action plan was probably one of the best of the team, and suggested that as being best practice, which is great feedback. We've signed up to the pledge of intention that was part of the Day of Memory, and that's again working together with partner agencies to look to develop processes in encouraging victims to report, so that continuous awareness raising around some of these again sensitive issues. So training has been a big push for us this year, certainly in the last 12 months, with our existing officers and staff, and certainly our new officers walking through the doors. So we're actively involved with some post-foundation training, but also some of the new recruits. In fact, I have two of my staff today at different Carrier doing presentations on these various topics to make sure that they're as contemporary as it possibly can be. So again, it's making sure officers are aware and staff are aware of that, and we don't just restrict that training to police officers and police officers. We certainly make sure that our frontline staff are aware of it, and certainly people within the CCC. So where that contact and interaction with the public is, that's where we will present the training. And again, you don't really that everybody in the forces have this particular training, so working towards it, and I'm out of the optimist. So we're also developing a safeguarding app, which again, so a lot of this data will be on the handheld stuff. So again, so officers at 4 o'clock in the morning confused or unsure what to do, they will be able to access mobile data, and so there'll be a question series of actions of what to take. So I think, again, great use of technology, and I think moving forward officers will have that, and that they're all being briefed on that kit. We're, again, to enhance the training within safeguarding units, so we're trying to identify specialisms within specialisms. So within the safeguarding units, we'll have officers who will have that over and above training around these key sort of elements really within FGM on base that we use, so almost spots within safeguarding. So if officers within safeguarding are unsure what to do, they'll have this point of contact to go to. And certainly ourselves at the governance unit will have oversight and a point of contact in relation to those. So again, we've developed, I was conscious of trying to tap into, and there's something you alluded to earlier, is about tapping into those communities that don't particularly have a voice, and I'm happy that we've developed, and Mr. Fox is aware of this, a portal where intelligence can be fed directly into the West Yorkshire Police, so it doesn't necessarily fed to an officer. So there's, we've got some certain charities, Cameron Havana, who can actually feed intelligence directly into the police service, and we've shared that with some key partners within Leeds around some of these who are quite prominent around FGM and force managers, etc., who will be able to provide us with that intelligence, which I think is a great innovative use of technology and an opportunity, another way in which we can have that interaction with communities that are not necessarily would want to come to a police station or speak to an officer directly. So again, I think it's great use of that. And we've done again through the internal audit, and of course we've done joint audits again around some of these elements, and the learning from that shared with districts and the wider partner agencies. So again, I still think it's probably vastly underreported to us. I think we've still got to continue pushing and cajoling and encouraging whichever way we can for these communities to come forward and have the confidence to report that to us, because we do have those officers that are dedicated specialists to deal with those victims of those crimes.
Thank you, yeah. You know, and these are, as you say, sensitive and difficult areas. But, well, certainly D&I recently at the Safer Communities Award evening, we had a very brave young woman who spoke about her experience of FGM. And I think that's why it's so important that the Safer Communities Fund is there to perhaps support locally based organisations that wouldn't necessarily access funding from many other places. So, you know, I think that's just a good example of connections we are making in some of our local communities, but it is, like I say, one that we need to continue to work very hard at, raising awareness and how people can come forward in very difficult circumstances. I mean, in the report you describe that an outcome-based accountability session took place in November. Can you just provide us with an overview of that sessions, and is there any plans to repeat that?
So the short answer is yes, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity to get partners together to have a joint outcome, really, so shared vision really around what we want to achieve through coming together and trying to raise awareness through sort of building on how can we look to encourage people, like I've already articulated, around getting people to come forward. And I think it was getting partners together to begin with, just to have a look at see what are the commonalities and shared views and things that we could actually build upon to have, moving forward, so we're not going off and splinting and doing a lot of things that actually as a collective we're stronger together, and if we can build on that then we get people to come forward. So that the key theme of that was strengthening awareness around these issues.
Okay, and relating to the action plan that's in the appendix, is there any learning that we can take forward for this next year on the back of the campaigns, and for example any activities that have worked really well to adapt and change? Yeah,
again, the media side of it works out brilliantly, as it always seems to do. Again, social media is fantastic in terms of getting the key message out at key times. One thing that was really innovative again, or something that we've not done before, was actually using officers up at Leeds Bradford Airport and getting posters up there. Again, our colleagues in South Yorkshire Police also did something similar. Again, we got really good feedback on that, and I think that's just it's continuing to evolve really, and being creative around opportunities around social media and media campaigns. And I think through the work that myself and Stuart are doing through the communications group, Safe Communications Group, I think having again that collective shared vision around particular themed a particular topic, if you like, I think it is where the strength lies, because we've seen previously that each of the 5 local authorities will have a communications department, will have ours, and everybody goes and do their own thing. I think bringing everybody together and having one thing, actually we can save a little bit of money, and actually it strengthens the messages when we're trying to get key messages out, it doesn't become diluted. Myself and Stuart have worked quite hard on that in terms of getting people together and actually having thematic communications programs, if you like, and I think that's worked. And again, building, going back to the previous subject around distant vision children, again, that's where the strength getting those key messages in. So, yeah, shared visions, I think, is the key message for me.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. And you know, I've certainly attended the Day of Memory event in Leeds. I know Dee and I have spoken individually to Karma Nirvana, who was, you know, they are a national organisation, but they are based in West Yorkshire. So it's good that you've, you know, taken on working directly with them around some of the training and awareness raising. But of course there are other groups in small pockets of communities in West Yorkshire that we continue to try and engage, and it's always a challenge to do that. Was there anything you needed to raise, Jane? Or
can I just ask about the strategic risk that you've identified on page 3 in relation to the volume of work for safeguarding teams and just how, you know, highly complex these offences are to investigate? So is there mitigating action for this risk?
Yeah, I mean, we continue to review the volumes that are going through safeguarding. Needless to say, we're obviously in the process of encouraging officers to move into safeguarding. There's a national shortage of detectives, as we nationally recognise. But again, it's ongoing work and trying to encourage officers to move into the safeguarding arena. We review the volumes and continue to monitor that. It's reviewed through the Strategic Safeguarding Board, where we look at staffing and staffing welfare and well-being is obviously a key element as well, making sure officers are looked after. So yeah, it's something we're very cognizant of, but the volumes are the volumes, and it's like the Chief referred to earlier, we've got to be risk assess what we deal with and prioritise, and I think that's a key element for us.
Over the last couple of years, through additional funding last year, we've put more officers and more staff into safeguarding, and we'll look at doing that over the course of the next year as well to mitigate that risk.
Okay, thanks for that. No more questions. So that concludes the main items on the agenda.